After university, the bright lights of the big smoke drew me like a moth to a flame. But after a few years of poverty and marginal employment, I finally admitted defeat and went back to school. Library school. The world didn't have much need for an H.P. Lovecraft expert during the 80s recession. School was a challenge after being a working stiff, and I was hard at it one wet November evening when I smelled, well, as Lovecraft would have put it, a noisome stench. A noisome stench. It was gross, but it wasn't me. If I didn't know any better, I'd think Freddy was here. I first encountered Freddy in high school, although we didn't become friends until university. Freddy had a girlfriend named Amber. On Friday or Saturday nights, they would go to the show at one of the 2 movie theaters in town, and whatever was playing during one of the quieter or more romantic moments, Freddy would fart. And I mean fart. A long, drawn-out thunderclap that reverberated through the auditorium and even woke up anyone who had fallen asleep. And as soon as the shock and awe had finished, Amber would wait one beat and cluck her tongue at him. Then wait another beat before saying, in a voice more amused than indignant, "Oh, Freddy!" This went on every weekend throughout high school. It got to the point that whenever Freddy sounded the trombone, the rest of us would wait a beat, cluck, wait another, then say in unison, "Oh, Freddy!" Ah, the carefree days of youth. I met Freddy at a pub night just after starting university. We quickly discovered we were from the same town, and when he told me his name and his school, I said, "You're not the guy." "Yup." He beamed with pride. What happened to Amber? Seems she got tired of being Freddy's second banana. I came to understand that. He was a hard man to keep up with. In fact, he was a wild man. Always the life of the party, always the center of attention, always up for a practical joke at somebody's expense. Some of his practical jokes verged on meanness, but he himself was not mean. Just thoughtless. Rude and crude as he was, the girls seemed to love him, and I was in his orbit, with the hopes of encountering some heavenly bodies myself. But you did have to put up with a lot of flatulence. Let me give you an example. Figuratively. We'd be at a party somewhere, and Freddy would lean towards me and say, pointing at a group of people, "See those stuck-up bastards over there?" "Yeah, what about them?" "They think they're too good to talk to us. Well, I'm going to break them up." "How are you going to do that?" "I'm going to go over there and plant one." What Freddy planted was an SBD, a silent but deadly fart. His could peel the paint off the walls. He would walk by, plant one, and within moments, the group was on the move. If there was ever a man in touch with his gastrointestinal system, it was Freddy. But sadly, For Freddy, he fooled around and fell in love, and she wouldn't have him. Oh, I think Amanda really enjoyed being with him, but in the end, she only went out with Freddy to make Jason, her rich boyfriend, jealous. And when that succeeded, Jason made her an offer she didn't want to refuse, and she went back to him. Freddy was crushed. He didn't come back for 4th year, but stayed home and worked in a factory. And one night, he took a curve a little too fast. Oh, I don't mean it was suicide. Freddy always drove too fast. But I couldn't help thinking that he simply didn't give a shit anymore. I only know for sure I really missed him. So that's why, when the awful smell filled the room, I automatically thought of my old friend and wondered if he'd returned to plant one. I had returned to my study of the foibles of colon classification. Colon classification. Yes, that's a real thing. I had returned to my study when someone started pounding on my door. So hard, I wondered if it might be the cops. Who is it? I asked in some trepidation. Jason, let me in. I was surprised as hell. What was Jason doing here? He and Amanda didn't live in town, as far as I knew, and we'd never been more than acquaintances during undergrad. In fact, I didn't like him. But here he was, at my door, demanding to be let in. Demanding was the word for it, too. He was always an entitled bastard. Still, I let him in. Jason charged into the room, looking around at my stuff as if he was from the Board of Health and about to condemn the property. The first words out of his mouth were, "Stinks in here." Yeah, nice to see you too. He's been here. I can smell him. Who? Freddy. Freddy's dead. He's come back. It appears Jason and Amanda had also come to town, as Jason was pursuing an MBA. Of course he was. Pursuing an MBA at my university. But for the past few nights, they had been disturbed by some disturbing behavior. At first it was just the usual poltergeist stuff, Jason intoned. Loud footsteps across the floorboards. Our condo has all original mahogany floorboards. They're all scuffed now, thanks to Freddy. Slamming doors, pulling blankets off the bed, the usual ghost stuff. But then he started, well, you know, flatulence, filling the place with obnoxious smells. He even makes all the bathroom noises and laughs like a maniac. And it goes on all night long. Gee, that's too bad, I said. I really didn't like this guy. But why come to me? You need to make him stop, Jason ordered. This led to quite a lengthy argument, during which I let Jason know, A, I had no proof Freddy was behind these strange events, B, I had no control over him if he was, and C, I didn't give a shit what happened to Jason. Although I said that more politely. I finally managed to get rid of him. My night's work had been completely derailed, so I cracked a beer and sat back and thought about Freddy. Had he really come back? I found it hard to believe, and then I remembered. It had been in the wee hours of a rather humid evening. A bunch of us had been sitting around discussing ghosts and the paranormal. Freddy unleashed a volcanic belch, then said, "If there's life after death, I'm going to come back as a ghost and fart in the face of every bastard who did me dirt." "I think you're supposed to be on a higher astral plane," I said. "Fuck that. I'd rather be a poltergeist." So there it was. Freddy had kept his promise and come back. Imagine, life after death proved by the actions of a horse's ass. You know, Fred, I said out loud, it's time you grabbed your harp and moved on. Why don't you leave them alone, eh? The room instantly filled with the foul odor. Odor, that's odor that's especially foul. The foul odor of intestinal gas. Intestinal gas, so strong I was forced to open a window out of self-preservation. I heard a light tapping at my door. Who the hell is it this time? I said to myself. Who it was Amanda. Has Jason been here? She asked, without preamble. I nodded and she added, Then you know what the problem is. I nodded. Can't you make him stop? I started to laugh. I had no control over Freddy when he was alive. What makes you think I can control him now he's dead? Can't we do anything? She entreated. Jason can't concentrate on his studies with all this going on. I shrugged. It wasn't my problem. Freddy's pissed off at you guys. I know, and it's all my fault. I played with Fred, led him on, to make Jason jealous. I didn't want to hurt him. How was I to know he was going to fall in love with me? I always thought he was a love him and leave him type. I had the glimmer of an idea. Are you truly sorry? I asked. Amanda was now in tears. You know I am. You know I never wanted to hurt him. For any of this, for his death, for any of it to happen. Then why not tell him? I said simply. Tell him? Apologize. And then and there, in my shabby flat, Amanda told Freddy, told his ghost, how sorry she was about what had happened, and asked him to forgive her and move on. Somehow I knew it would work. Freddy was a good shit in the long run. Perhaps that wasn't the best way to put it. But Amanda's words were heartfelt and sincere, and when she had finished, the room was once again filled by an aroma, the most beautiful of all aromas, the most beautiful aroma in the entire universe. New car smell. And I knew Amanda's apology had been heard and accepted. After Amanda left, I poured myself 2 fingers of Jack and, raising my glass, said, Way to go, Freddy. I'm proud of you, man. And the dirty bugger farted in my face. He haunts me still. If this is your first visit to my channel, my name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories of a librarian, and original horror stories featuring cryptids such as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and black-eyed children. So, quit farting around. Subscribe today. Till midnight. Cheers.